let's do this since we're like on the topic of like Super Sentai, right? Another like talking point. We were just done talking about number one Sentai Gojuger, going through like, you know, the episode, going through the episodes, like the plot stuff from point A to point B, and then we talked about the pros and cons and the two elephants in the room of Super Sentai. So it made me think of like Gojuger being the last season for number one Sentai Gojuger. It marks as the end, quote unquote, for Super Sentai, being the big 50, you know? So let me like just, well, not let me, I want to like divulge, you know, where I got into Super Sentai, right? Just as like a personal story from the Khaiza, right? Like, cause some people may ask, how did you get into Super Sentai? Why are you like so knowledgeable about Super Sentai? You know, conversations like that can happen, right? So let me just like, you know, divulge, right, how I got into like the series, right? When I was a kid, I was super big into Power Rangers. I think like my first time experiencing Power Rangers, my dad got me a VHS copy of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. This was the one where like Tommy was like the White Ranger and all that jazz, you know? I saw how Power Rangers moved in that movie, and I dead ass, like, this is like a true story. Like I was watching it with my friend, with my mom and dad, at my very like old house. Like this is like before where mom and I are currently living at, you know? It was like at an old house, my very first old house that I was like born at, like in somewhere like in Journal Square. I saw the Power Rangers for the first time like morphed or like henshined and doing all these like crazy poses. My body just instinctively like got up from like, you know, the bed I was like watching like from, and I was like posing like this shit was awesome, this shit was cool. And then I looked to the right of like my mom and dad looking at me very like weird, like they had this like, what's the meme of like, you know, the Muppet bitch, you know, just like side-eyeing you or something like that. Like that's like what happened to me, dog. That's how I got into like Super Sentai, is like from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. I think a little bit like earlier though, right? I did watch like the Day of the Dumpster, but I didn't think much of it. But I think that was like a canon event, right? Not like the first event, but like the canon event where I witnessed Power Rangers for the first time, and I was like, yo, damn, this shit is awesome. And then I became a super avid Power Rangers fan ever since. I stuck with the series like through and through, from the Fox Kids era to the Disney Jetix era to even like the Nickelodeon era, right, with all of their fuck all shit. And speaking of, right, when I got into the Nickelodeon era, I was like a little bit weirded out, because it was like, okay, Shinkenger or Samurai was really cool, just a Americanized take on the original adaptation of Shinkenger, which is all about, you know, Japanese kanji and origami and samurai bushido ideologies. I paid no mind to like samurai, because it was like, yeah, samurai was like really cool. But then I got into like Megaforce, and surprisingly I didn't pay no mind to that either. The show quality was super ass. I stuck with like Power Rangers in the Nickelodeon era up to the Ninja Steel. That's how far I got up to, which is Ninja Steel. I think it was like in the middle or in the end of their first like core, like COUR core, like in animes, right? I was like, nope, I'm done. I was just super like appalled and disgusted by Power Rangers, right? At that point in like in the Nickelodeon era, or in the Nickelodeon like Neo Saban era. I stopped at Ninja Steel because like the quality of the shows were really fucking ass. Like, they were just regurgitating, you know, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to a fucking T. Like, even to, like, Samurai. Like, Samurai had its own unique identity for being Bushido ideologies and, you know, kanji and, what was it, all those stuff. But the music choices felt not original. They just felt like whitewashed fucking Mighty Morphin soundtracks. It continued all the way until like some of even like the later seasons, like Beast Morphers and Dino Fury and Cosmic Fury, right? Which, you know, Cosmic Fury was a weird one because it was Hasbro originally said that they were going to use like original suits, original power-ups, but they kept the Zords intact and the villains intact, except for maybe like Lord Zed, you know? But nothing about it screamed like original, and it was just the same goddamn mess that that Dino Fury or like, you know, the symptom of these Neo Saban eras like really like had. It's just no substance, no soul, just relying on the 1990 like show Hat Trick and just regurgitate that in other shows. Like, I was sick of Power Rangers, right? I was sick of Power Rangers and the quality that it was going like downhill. When Ninja Steel first ended its first season, that's when I was like, okay, you know what? Let me just watch like a Super Sentai show. Let me start with something that's like, you know, currently going on. And that show was Q Ranger, which was like the 9 Rangers, right? I have not seen like a Super Sentai at that point in time. I've not seen a Super Sentai show in my life. In my fucking life, I've never seen like a Super Sentai show. What the hell is this? Like, you know, there's Power Rangers in Japan? Yo, that's kind of fire though. And then I saw Q Ranger and it's like, this is some dope shit, right? Like, it's hokey, it's cheesy as much as like, you know, Power Rangers is, right? That's also the level of cheese, but at least I wasn't bored to tears. At least I wasn't cringing or gouging my eyes out watching Q Ranger. I was actually like entertained with what's like going on, you know, with Q Ranger, like, you know, the story of Stinger and what was it, Lucky's like family lineage getting like that, you know, boss ass like power up, and what else was there, Tsurugi being like the Space Buster whole soldier. Like, I love the things that Super Sentai was giving to me, was showing to me, that it made Power Rangers just fucking like, you know, I never want to watch this piece of shit ever again. I never want to watch this piece of shit ever again. And from that point on, I started going backwards and started watching older Sentais while still keeping up with like some of like the newer ones, you know? I've watched Gokaiger, I've watched Go Busters, I've watched Goseiger, I've watched all of the Sentais, right, of like my own discretion, all the way up to like, let's say like currently Go Juger, all the way back to Abba Ranger. I got like bored out of like Hurricaneger, you know, but I want to like go back and watch it again. I know there's like episodes airing of older Sentai in Tokusatsu, like Time Ranger, Gao Ranger, things like that. There's even like, I saw like episodes of like Mega Ranger. I think I saw mostly Mega Ranger, right, which is cool. But yeah, like, I was just going down like a pleasant rabbit hole, you know, if I want to call it that, of watching Super Sentai shows and just having a blast watching like those shows in comparison to like Sentai, you know? I found much more enjoyment in those shows than what I have been watching with like the sleazebag like corporate capitalist like fucking shows that Neo Saban and Power Rangers have been doing. Like, it's so like, again, they have no fucking soul, man. And then concurrently, right, I was just watching Super Sentai, and then I dipped into Kamen Rider, which became like my number one, not my number one thing, no pun intended, to go future, but it became like second best thing. You know, I collect drivers, I collect like toys and stuff like that, you know, of Kamen Rider and Super Sentai, because they're so much cooler than what I got with Power Rangers. Sorry that I'm like, you know, deeply like, you know, attacking Power Rangers, but I'm only attacking how Power Rangers has become, right, with the Neo Saban era and its eventual like closure, departure from Hasbro, because Hasbro decided to like, yo, let's sell off all our merch, let's sell off the props, you know. They're gonna be making like, I think I heard Boom Studios is going to be making more Power Rangers comics, which is one of the few saving graces of Power Rangers, is like the comic book universe of Power Rangers. Even though it's like Mighty Morphin, but yo, they go ham with like, you know, their comic book series, like the Lord Draken universe and like Shattered Grid. There's even like a TMNT crossover, right, which they done long time ago, like in space for like gag hype material, but they go ham on that shit, you know. I don't mind. I love older Power Rangers, like not Mighty Morphin, because Mighty Morphin ages like milk, right? Like it's definitely like a show of the time, you know. But I dug the hell out of like the Fox Kids like era of Power Rangers, like from In Space all the way up to the end of the Disney Jetix Power Rangers, which was Go Onger, right? I loved the shows that they were doing because it was not relying on Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers a lot of the time, even though In Space was in the continuity of the Morphin Grid, the Zordon era, but In Space was the end of that Zordon era, all the way up to like the last episode. And then the next show, next season, what do we got? Lost Galaxy. And even though they had like Alpha, which is something that is like, you know, gotta keep up with like Power Rangers, like Memorabilia, but Lost Galaxy was its own thing. The Quasar Sabers and Trakeeta and Scorpita, you know, like after like at Lost Galaxy and onward, right, Power Rangers just continue to like go into their own universes, right, not relying on MMPR, and I love them. Like they make them stand out on their own, you know. Some of like my favorite Power Rangers are from the ones that are not affiliated, associated, or even, you know, are influenced by Mighty Morphin, you know. Well, I mean, every Power Ranger has been influenced by MMPR because that's the one that started it all in the US, but it's not like directly like influence, you know? Like let's say like Power Rangers, well, I guess like Dino Thunder, to like one exception, because Tommy Oliver is like a high school teacher, right? A fucking like SPD, Jack Landers is not like Tommy Oliver's like great grandkid or some shit like that, or has like the DNA of like Zordon or some shit, you know. Like it doesn't go like that much, you know. It's not influenced like that bit like at all, you know. It's like their own thing. Yeah, so I love like the older like Power Rangers, and I wish like the Neo Saban eras had like that flair, that element, but no, it's just like whatever they were cooking and sniffing in the Nickelodeon era, the Neo Saban era, is like what made Power Rangers really profitable. What really was quote unquote popping was the 90s shit. And they thought it worked because like in that era, like nostalgia was like really like big, like it was in its infancy, and everybody really liked like the old times. So they thought, hey, let's bring in Power Rangers, you know? Nah, it did not work. It was just cheap. It was, you know, like no identity, no soul. Like like that shit was, you know, extremely, like, I'll use my mod's phrasing for this. It was gay, bro. It was fucking gay. Which ironically, Power Rangers became more LGBTQ plus, which is, that's a good saving grace. Like, that continued to, like, the Neo Saban era, right? I think that was like Billy's like wish, or what was it? David Yost, right? He's like back in the day, like, this is like old Power Rangers. This is like, Power Rangers like drama. David Yost was like, he's a LGBTQ plus, but he had to hide the fact because of his, like, work environment and the year. It was only like conspiracy theory now. After like Jason David Frank passed away, rest in peace, the GOAT. Show got progressively more into, like, LGBTQ plus. Yeah, and you could like openly have like what was it? Boyfriend or girlfriend open love relationships. That's like a good thing. That's like a good thing. Like, anybody could be like a Power Ranger, and you could like love whoever like you want. Doesn't matter. Like, as long as you stand by good and all things that's like, upholding and justice sort of thing. Yeah, you can be like a Power Ranger. And all of a sudden, some like, you could already imagine some fucking commenters like saying, "What? No, idiots." But yeah, that's how I got into Sentai, was like my spiteful like relationship hatred with what's going on with like what was going on with Power Rangers at the time, and I switched like gears, and now Sentai is like coming to an end. So it's like, I think it's also like Power Rangers coming to an end. It's not just like toy sales, but it's also like, the same guy at Hasbro that doomed and ended Power Rangers is also the same guy that doomed and ended Super Sentai. Capitalist ventures fuck who's running like Hasbro right currently is making the shots and decided like, hey, let's sell off the series. Fuck. But yeah, that's how I got into like Super Sentai.